Your bank account is a glass of water sitting on a kitchen counter. Every decision you don't make, that's heat entering the system. Every subscription you forgot to cancel, that's a molecule escaping into the air. And here's the part that should terrify you: the universe doesn't care about your plans. It has one rule for everything, including your money. Entropy always increases. That's the second law of thermodynamics, and it's not a suggestion. You're not losing money because you're bad with budgets. You're losing it because money obeys the same law as melting ice, rusting metal, and dying stars. The natural state of your wealth isn't stability, it's chaos. And every single day you wake up without a system to fight that decay, you're watching your financial future evaporate at the molecular level. Most people think they just need to earn more or spend less, but those aren't solutions. Those are band-aids on a wound that physics carved into the fabric of reality. I'm about to show you why the middle-class financial advice you've been following is making the problem worse. And then I'll give you the only framework that actually stops the bleed. Someone figured this out. Her name's Lauren, and in 90 days she built something most financial advisors don't even understand exists. Here's what no one tells you about money. It behaves exactly like energy in a physical system. And there's a law governing energy that has never been broken, not once, in the entire history of the universe. The second law of thermodynamics states that in any closed system, disorder always increases over time. Your wealth, it's a closed system the moment your paycheck stops growing faster than your expenses. Think about it, you don't have to do anything for your car to rust. You don't have to try for food to spoil. The default state of everything in this universe is decay. Order requires constant energy input. The moment you stop applying force, entropy takes over. Your money is no different. Most people operate under a dangerous illusion. They think wealth is static, that if they just put money in a savings account or set a budget, it'll stay there protected. But that's not how thermodynamics works. A savings account is like a glass of ice water sitting in a warm room. You're not preserving it, you're just watching it melt slower. Inflation is the heat. Forgotten subscriptions are the molecules escaping, small purchases you don't track. Those are microleaks bleeding energy from your system every single hour. Here's the brutal truth: your wealth doesn't need your permission to disappear. It needs your permission to stay. So what's the real problem? Why does everyone's money seem to vanish even when they're trying to save it? Because they're treating a thermodynamic problem like it's a math problem. They think budgeting is about adding and subtracting numbers. But budgeting without understanding entropy is like trying to keep ice frozen by writing down its temperature. The act of measurement doesn't stop the decay. The financial system you're living in right now was designed for entropy to win. Every marketed product, every small monthly fee, every convenience charge is a deliberate heat source introduced into your closed system. And unless you build barriers, structural walls that entropy cannot penetrate without enormous effort, your money will continue to dissipate. But what if you could create a low-entropy financial system? What if, instead of fighting a losing battle with willpower and spreadsheets, you built an architecture so airtight that money decay became physically difficult? That's not theory, that's engineering. And it starts with understanding the 3 laws of wealth thermodynamics. Here's the framework. I call it the thermal barrier system. It's built on 3 unbreakable principles, and each one corresponds to a law of thermodynamics applied to your finances. First law: energy cannot be created or destroyed, only transferred. In financial terms, that means every dollar you have came from somewhere and will go somewhere. Your job isn't to create more dollars out of thin air. Your job is to control the direction of transfer. Most people let their money transfer out through 1,000 invisible channels. Subscriptions they forgot, fees they never noticed, impulse buys at checkout. These aren't big purchases. They're micro-transfers, and they're happening constantly, like heat radiating from a warm object into a cold room. The solution: you don't just track spending, you create friction. You build walls between your money and the outside world so thick that transferring wealth out requires conscious, deliberate effort. That's the first barrier: intentional friction. Every dollar that leaves your system should feel like pushing a boulder uphill. Second law: entropy always increases unless energy is added to maintain order. This is the one that destroys most people. They think setting a budget once is enough. But a budget is a photograph of order, not the system maintaining it. The moment you stop inputting energy, your budget decays. You start making exceptions, you rationalize purchases, you forget rules. Here's what works: automation. Not the kind where you auto-pay bills, the kind where your money physically cannot enter chaos without hitting a structural wall first. Separate accounts. Automatic transfers that happen before you see the money. A system where your paycheck gets divided the instant it arrives, not when you remember to move it. Think of it like this: You wouldn't try to keep water frozen by promising yourself you'll keep it cold. You'd put it in a freezer, a machine that constantly applies energy to fight entropy. Your financial system needs a freezer. Automation is that freezer. It's the constant energy input that keeps your wealth from melting into randomness. Third law, as a system approaches maximum order, the effort required to maintain that order increases exponentially. In money terms, this means the closer you get to perfect financial control, the harder it gets to improve. But here's the secret most people miss. You don't need perfect control. You need good enough barriers that entropy can't destroy you. The mistake people make is trying to optimize every cent. They track every coffee, every parking meter, every dollar. That's entropy in disguise. You're spending so much energy maintaining maximum order that you burn out, and when you burn out, the whole system collapses faster than if you'd never tried. The smart move: build a system that's about 80% airtight. Let the small leaks happen. They're negligible. Focus your energy on the big thermal barriers, the ones that stop catastrophic loss. That's why people who succeed financially aren't the ones with the perfect spreadsheets. They're the ones with systems so simple they can't fail even when life gets chaotic. Here's how you build your own thermal barrier system in 3 steps. Step 1. Identify your entropy sources. Sit down and look at your last 60 days of transactions. Don't categorize them yet, just highlight every charge that happened without a conscious decision. Subscriptions you forgot, fees you didn't notice, purchases you made on autopilot, these are your thermal leaks, the money escaping your system without resistance. Write them down, not to shame yourself, to see where the walls need to go. Step 2. Build structural friction. This is where most advice fails. People say just cancel subscriptions or stop impulse buying. That's not structure. That's willpower, and willpower is a terrible building material. Instead, create physical separation. Open a second checking account, one that has zero connection to your debit card, your apps, your automatic payments. The day your paycheck hits, 70% of it transfers to that account automatically. You never see it. It's in the freezer before it has a chance to melt. Everything left in your main account, that's your operating budget. Spend it however you want. The system doesn't care because the important money is already protected behind a wall. You've created a closed subsystem with low entropy, and the money in there can only leave if you manually move it back. That manual step, that's friction. That's the barrier entropy has to overcome, and most of the time it won't. Step 3. Install pressure release valves. Here's where the third law comes in. If your system is too rigid, it'll crack under pressure. Life happens, emergencies appear. You need an escape mechanism that doesn't destroy the whole structure, so you build in small, controlled leaks. A monthly discretionary fund. A tiny percentage that you can blow on whatever you want, no tracking, no guilt. That releases the psychological pressure that builds up when people feel trapped by their budget. And for real emergencies, you don't touch the main barrier. You build a separate emergency reservoir. 3 months of expenses sitting in an account you pretend doesn't exist unless the roof starts leaking or the car dies. That reservoir is your safety valve. It keeps the primary system intact even when chaos hits. This isn't about perfection. It's about physics. You're not trying to eliminate entropy. You're engineering a system where entropy costs more energy than it's worth. Her name's Lauren, 32 years old, elementary teacher living in Phoenix. Salary, $3,800 a month after taxes. And for 6 years, she watched that money vanish like steam off hot pavement. She had subscriptions she forgot existed, 11 of them. Total monthly cost, $270. She had a gym membership she used twice in 8 months, $87 a month. Coffee runs 4 times a week because she was always running late, $17 a pop. She wasn't reckless, she just never built walls. 3:41 in the morning, May 8th. She woke up to use the bathroom and checked her bank balance out of habit, $463, 12 days until payday. Rent was paid, but nothing else was covered. Her hands started shaking, not because it was the first time she'd been that low, because it was the 30th time, same cycle every single month. Her chest tightened. She sat on the bathroom floor for 20 minutes trying to figure out where the money went. But there was no single answer. It was everywhere. It was entropy. May 13th, she hit rock bottom. Overdraft fee, $35 for buying groceries with money she thought she had. That was the moment she stopped treating this like a budgeting problem and started treating it like physics. She opened the second account that day, set up the automatic transfer, 70% of every paycheck gone before she could touch it. The first week felt terrifying. She kept checking the balance in the protected account, convinced it would somehow leak out, but it didn't. The walls held. Day 12, she canceled 9 subscriptions, kept 2 she actually used. Day 23, she moved her emergency fund goal from someday to 90 days. She calculated the exact amount, divided it by 12 paychecks, added it to the automatic transfer. 90 days later, Lauren had $3,200 in her protected account. Money she'd never seen accumulate in her life. Not because she earned more, because she stopped letting Entropy win by default. The validation came from her sister. They'd always split holiday expenses, and for the first time ever, Lauren didn't panic when the conversation started. "You seem calmer about money," her sister said. Lauren just smiled. She didn't explain the system. She didn't need to. The thermal barriers were invisible, but the results weren't. Here's the question you need to ask yourself right now, not tomorrow, not after you watch 3 more videos, right now. If you woke up tomorrow and your money had to justify its existence to stay in your account, how much would survive? Be honest. How many dollars are sitting there doing nothing, waiting for Entropy to claim them? Here's what I want you to understand. Financial freedom isn't about having $1 million. It's about building a system where your money cannot leave without your explicit, conscious permission. It's about making Entropy work for its meal instead of feeding it for free. Every single person watching this has money leaking out of their life right now, not because they're stupid, not because they don't care, but because they never built the walls. They thought good intentions were enough. They're not. The universe doesn't reward intentions, it rewards structure. You don't need to be perfect. You don't need to track every cent or live like a monk. You just need to build barriers strong enough that your money can't evaporate while you're sleeping. That's it. That's the entire game. And the beautiful part, once you build the system, it runs itself. Thermodynamics becomes your ally instead of your enemy. The same law that used to drain your account starts protecting it, because now disorder costs energy, and most of the chaos in your life doesn't have the energy to break through. You're not failing because you're weak. You're failing because you're fighting physics with feelings. Stop, build the walls, let the system do the work. Drop the word barrier in the comments if you're ready to stop letting your money evaporate. That's your first intentional choice. That's you telling Entropy it doesn't win anymore. If this made sense, hit the like button. I don't ask for much, but when something shifts the way you see money, let me know. It helps me keep making these. The video on your screen right now, that's the next layer. We're going to talk about the hidden fees most people never see, the ones disguised as convenience. You'll want to watch that immediately because those are the biggest thermal leaks in your system. And subscribe. Every week, I break down one more way to build financial security without gambling on markets or trusting gurus. This is just physics applied to your paycheck. That's all it's ever been.